So latest news break coming in. There has been no ban on the Ganesh Utsav at Hubli Eidgah Maidan. The Karnataka High Court, listening to a petition, has allowed Ganesh Utsav at the Hubli Eidgah. No interim relief to the Muslim parties. I want to connect right now immediately to Nalini. Nalini, citing the example of what went down in the Supreme Court this evening in question of Bengaluru, now it seems at least where the Hubli Eidgah Maidan is, the Karnataka High Court has gone ahead and given the clearance for the festivities to take place tomorrow.
Absolutely, Preeti. It was a late-night hearing in the Karnataka High Court before a single-judge bench. And what he is noted in the order is that there is absolutely no dispute regarding the ownership or the title of the Eidgah Maidan in Hubli, which is starkly different from the Eidgah Maidan in Bengaluru that we were earlier talking about, which the matter regarding which had reached the Supreme Court. So because there is absolutely no question over the title and the ownership of the Eidgah land in Hubli, and it is owned by the government, so the government has the right to use it in any way it chooses. In addition to that, there was a commission that was set up by the government that has done its groundwork to see as to whether or not these celebrations can actually be allowed. And they've submitted a report to the government, and only after that, the permission has been granted. So keeping all of this in mind, the Karnataka High Court has given a go-ahead. There is no stay at all on the festivities in the Eidgah ground in Hubli in Karnataka. But at the same time, the Supreme Court order that has specifically ordered for status quo to be maintained and no celebrations to happen in the Eidgah ground in Bengaluru still holds in place. But that is not applicable to the Eidgah ground in Hubli according to the Karnataka High Court order that has just come up.
Nalini, does this settle the case for Hubli, or is there the remotest chance of the petitioners now approaching the Supreme Court even though you're hours away from celebration?
Well, it seems unlikely at this point, Preeti, because remember the Supreme Court was already sitting in a late evening hearing while it was deciding as to whether or not the celebrations at the Eidgah ground in Bengaluru should be allowed to go on or not. So keeping in mind the timing right now and also the fact that the ground has been granted to the Hindu private organization to conduct the celebrations only for 2 nights and 3 days. So keeping that in mind, it seems unlikely because the celebrations are set to kick off tomorrow. But at the same time, anything can happen. There is no speculating at this point because the Muslim petitioners have tried to make a strong case and pull every thread out of the book to try and ensure that they can get an interim stay. After the Supreme Court had passed the order in the evening, they had rushed to the Karnataka High Court with a fresh application saying that this order is coming from the Supreme Court and there should be a similar stay that should be granted even for the area of Hubli, the Eidgah ground at Hubli. But of course that has not been granted right now. But it seems unlikely, as far as I can tell, that they will approach the Supreme Court now. So it seems like the order will be in place and the Ganesh festivities will be allowed to go on tomorrow.
The fact that, Nalini, that these are festivities which will go on for more than a day, is it possible that the petitioners could approach the higher court or the apex court tomorrow?
The case that the petitioners had made out before the Karnataka High Court today was very interesting because what they stated was that this Eidgah Maidan is actually a place of worship because of its proximity to the mosque and because it's a place of worship which is now being granted to another party to perform their religious functions. So that is essentially changing the character of the place of worship itself, which cannot be allowed according to the Places of Worship Act. Now, if this is the question that they are raising before the court of law, this is a much larger question that needs to be determined as to whether or not that Eidgah Maidan in the very first place can even be considered as a place of worship or not. Because the Karnataka High Court in its order has noted that there is nothing that's been put on record by the Muslim parties to prove that this Maidan has been declared a place of worship. So in the absence of the proof of the same, there is a larger surrounding question as to whether or not this argument that is being put by them can even be accepted by the court in the very first place. Also keeping in mind that this is not an order that is coming from the trial court, the Karnataka High Court not once but now twice has issued the same order again because they'd issued the same order earlier in the day when they'd allowed the festivities to go on, and now in the late night hearing they've issued the order again. The chances for the Muslim parties to challenge this now remain slim because even in the Supreme Court, if they file an appeal, for them to get it listed on an urgent basis and to go through the entire process to make it happen is also going to be significantly long drawn. So they don't have that much time on their hands. And along with that, they're preparing the appeal, and the documents supplementing it is also going to take some significant amount of time. So even if they try and rush it, their legal options seem limited at this point. So they will have to put up with the order of the Karnataka High Court and allow for the festivities to go on. But yes, in the larger scheme of things, they might go ahead and ask for this ground itself to be declared as an official place of worship so that this cannot be repeated in the future. Considering it's a short duration right now, it seems like they might not challenge it, but they might still be raising the larger question as to whether or not there should be a question regarding the ownership of this land.